Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Sarah Thaler. I'm the Strategic Partnerships Manager at Khan Academy. And first of all, I'm going to start with Happy Teacher Appreciation Week to all the former and current teachers out there. We recognize that you wear so many different hats for such an important job, and we really can't thank you enough. But then this is a great week to celebrate some amazing things that Rhode Island educators are doing to use Khan Academy to scale statewide SAT readiness. Now, whether you're at the state level, you're a district, or your school, we think you're going to walk away today with some tangible strategies for how a district partnership can work for you. What is a district partnership? You likely know that Khan Academy provides a free world-class education to anyone, anywhere. So the best mission in the world, as Sal will say. But we also have a districts program that provides implementation support, resources, training, data and insights for administrators, as well as access to Khan Amigo. And so now I'm going to turn it over to our founder and CEO, Sal Khan, who is going to discuss our district program, as well as help set us the stage for how Rhode Island is leading the way on SAT prep and college and career readiness. Sal, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Well, just to give a lot of folks background, Khan Academy in the early days, we've always done a lot of work with schools and teachers from really day one. We had our teacher tools, et cetera. But about 8 years ago, we've had a whole series of efficacy studies. I believe we're the most studied platform, mainly third party studies that we didn't have much to do with. But they've all said the same narrative that if students are able to do 30 to 60 minutes a week of personalized practice over the course of a year, depending on the study you look at, 20, 30, 40, 50, sometimes well in excess of that percent acceleration. We started going to school districts about 8 years ago saying, look at the efficacy studies. How can we get more of your teachers? A lot of your teachers were already using it. And consistently, we heard from districts saying, look, we believe you. Almost everyone had a story of someone in their family who benefited from Khan Academy. Always happy to hear those stories about someone's niece or son, or sometimes even the district leaders themselves. Khan Academy might have helped them get through grad school. But they said, in order for us to adopt it systemically at a district level or at a state level, which we'll talk more about, we need support, we need training, we need integration with our rostering systems, we need to make sure that you sign the data privacy agreement. I could go down the list. And so that was the genesis of what has now become our Khan Academy district offering. And what's exciting now, it's over 600 districts just in the United States. We actually do work with schools outside of the United States and actually even countries outside of the United States. But we've seen that the best impact of Khan Academy, I cited all of these efficacy studies. It's not when you just throw Khan Academy into, and I would make that argument, any technology, if you just throw it into a system. It really is when it's in close partnership with school leaders, with district leaders, there's support, there's training. We're seeing not just efficacy studies, but we're seeing a lot of places really start to move the dial on that front. And this conversation is going to be about the SAT and the work with Rhode Island. And before I talk about Rhode Island a second, I'll just talk about the SAT. We've had a long-standing partnership with the College Board. I think we started it in 2015, 2014. I forget the exact start year. And it was interesting because many years ago, I started Khan Academy making videos for my family and making software for them. I had done every practice problem in the SAT book for my cousins, and I thought the SAT was going to, get me in trouble. But apparently, they were quietly watching, and College Board said, "What we really appreciate about Khan Academy is you all aren't about tricks. You all are actually making sure that you learn the underlying material." And they saw that in those videos that I had made for my cousins 20 years ago. And they said, "We'd like to do a formal partnership with you." So we've had this official SAT partnership since 2015. Then when the SAT transitioned to digital SAT, we created the digital SAT course. And what I'm excited about that is it's not just about having kids perform well on the SAT. I think that actually is a signal for something bigger. No standardized test is perfect, but the SAT does correlate, and I would say provides evidence of true college readiness. And so when students are preparing for better performance on the SAT, they're really just they're actually getting more ready for college. It's actually going to increase their success of college, and that just shows up on the SAT score. And so, the work we're doing in Rhode Island is very exciting because nearly 2/3 of all of the eligible students who could be using it are using it. We're seeing early signs of really promising results. And I think there's two things. I think there's the results itself, but I also think it's the confidence in the signals that you're sending with students, that you're not just kind of throwing them into something. Maybe there's kids on the other side of town who have access to high priced tutors, et cetera, that this is actually leveling the playing field and they have as just as good of a shot as anyone if they're willing to put in the work, which we see over and over again. So we're very excited about this partnership and what Rhode Island is doing, and we're hoping it can be a template for a lot of other places.
Great. Thanks, Sal. So that's a great segue to our another guest is the Commissioner of Elementary and Secondary Education for the Rhode Island Department of Education, also known as RIDE. Commissioner Infante Green, you have been reimagining the high school experience to focus on readiness for life after graduation, as Sal kind of mentioned. How does SAT readiness and your partnership with Khan Academy fit into your broader vision?
Well, thank you, Sarah, and thank you to Sal Khan and the Khan Academy team, because I have to tell you that we are very clear on providing opportunities, having kids college ready, and we can't do that if we don't have the tools and the supports to make that happen. And this partnership has helped us reimagine what high school looks like. This is not an add-on. This is really what they're doing. They're really, this adds to what's happening in the classroom. And what we see is a very deep commitment to expanding the work and using it so they have their opportunities in the classroom during the day where they're doing competitions, where they're doing the work that, and the kids are really, really, really excited about it. It's really hard to quantify that, because I had the opportunity of going into Central High School in Providence this year, because they were recognized for placing second in the nation, moving math skills to proficient with Khan Academy. Do you know what that means? This is a school that has not experienced that kind of success. And I have to say that it is really with great joy that we have extended this partnership. In the last 18 months, every single high school in Rhode Island is really using Khan District. It is something that I don't know how we would have this progress. We have made the most progress that we have ever made in the last year. And I will say, I was just in a podcast with one of our districts talking about inclusion, and the AP said to me, I have to share with you something, Commissioner. Our SAT scores went up 23% in math and 19 in ELA, and they were beaming. They were beaming, and the kids were so excited, because that meant this is a different trajectory for them. This is what we're making sure, is that our kids are able to access all the opportunities with confidence, that they have the skill set. And this is what we believe for our secondary students, and Khan District has helped us move that needle. If you have not been using it, it is extremely important, because it's not just about our students, but it's our teachers, the tools, the resources. It really changes the instruction that happens in the building. So I can't say enough about the pride that we feel when we see our kids be so excited about really the SAT. You know, it's no longer something that they have to do. It's something that they take pride in doing, and they want to excel. And I have to say that we could not have done this without this partnership. And I'm not just saying that because Sal is here. I really mean it. I am serious about that. And you will hear from our district leaders and our principals what that has meant and how it has changed the way that we work with our students. So thank you all.
Thank you. And Steve, you're also from RIDE. Tell us a little bit more about the work that you and the commissioner are doing to reimagine high school and what that looks like.
Thank you, Sarah. We'd be happy to share a little bit of the Rhode Island story. So Rhode Island is reimagining high school. A couple of years back, we asked our kids what they wanted to do after high school graduation, and 80% of our kids said that they wanted to go on to some form of post-secondary education. When we dove deep and looked into the experiences they were getting in high school, we saw that only 60% of our kids were actually taking the classes to make them eligible to go to post-secondary, and only half of our kids were actually passing those classes. The mismatch that we were seeing wasn't acceptable. We took bold action and adopted readiness-based graduation requirements, which aligned our graduation requirements to college entrance requirements, increased real-world relevant learning, and made things like financial literacy and civics and computer science a graduation requirement. We also made sure to better support our students and our parents so they could get more engaged in our schools. We've overhauled state accountability to focus on meaningful measures of academic growth, and our results have been remarkable. Right now, we're #1 in the country in AP growth of the percentage of graduates earning a qualifying score in an AP assessment. Our dual enrollment outcomes are up 200%, and our CTE enrollment in high skill, high growth programs is up dramatically. Our kids are graduating with an open door for college and career success. One really important part of this is making sure that we have clear, consistent assessment measures that indicate the readiness for our kids. This has been an essential ingredient for our system, and it needs to be, and it's been important for us to have a universally understood measure of learning and achievement. The SAT and the PSAT has been an important part of this transformation in Rhode Island. And even with stronger coursework requirements, we needed a trust measure that signals readiness to colleges and universities. By adopting the SAT, we made sure that every single student statewide has the ability to take the assessments that make them eligible to go to college in Rhode Island and in the region. Now, every student, regardless of zip code or income, has the ability to take those tests and validate their learning and achievements in high school. The Khan partnership. So we were really excited when we had the opportunity to partner with Khan in 2024. And this took a big step forward, making sure that every kid in Rhode Island had the ability to get SAT prep and SAT support that previously had only been reserved for the privileged. We announced that groundbreaking partnership with Khan in November 2024, and we committed to making sure that every student had the ability to be supported. This partnership wasn't just an extra resource. It was a thoughtful and strategic collaboration that aimed to provide our educators, who you'll hear from in a couple minutes, more tools to be able to better support our students on the validated assessments and tools that we use to measure progress in Rhode Island. What we're seeing is really exciting. It's helping accelerate learning and improve student achievement. In just 2 short months of announcing the partnership, we had 90% of high school students rostered statewide in Rhode Island. And 60% of those students, again, just in 2 months, were actively engaged with Khan Academy. We were a part of that, and I think one thing we were really proud to be able to work on together is that included getting fully executed DSAs with more than 40 school districts, making sure we could work with local tech directors and tech teams on having single sign-on systems to be able to make sure students could access that work. And again, we're excited to get and have a running start last year as we went through the first couple months of the partnership. You're probably wondering how we did this. And again, it was a great collaboration between our team and the team at Khan. We succeeded because we chose partnership over a mandate. We wanted to make sure that this partnership added value to our school and district leaders, and made sure that was the core part of our message to our schools. We at RIDE have a great and amazing team. Specifically want to call out Melissa Kuznets and the great work she's done here, but we also had a great and amazing support team at Khan Academy as well. We made sure that the announcement reached all of our school and district leaders. And if we didn't hear from folks, we called them on the phone, we went out and visited them, and we made sure we were supporting them. We offered weekly support calls, which paired the RIDE team with the Khan team to be able to make sure that every single school and every single district was well supported. I want to call out specifically the amazing onboarding toolkits that were developed by the Khan team. They made this easy to be able to roll out and make tremendous progress shortly. We also did statewide communities of practice to be able to share out what was working in our schools and districts so our schools can learn from each other. These ground up relationships have truly made a big difference in Rhode Island. The year one results, and again, we're excited by these year one results. And I think just to preface this, we launched the work in January 2025, and students took the SAT in March 2025. So 2 months in, we saw some really exciting, promising results. In less than 3 months, the average student who was engaging in Khan had their SAT score go up by 9 points. The data reveals that students spending more time on Khan also saw larger increases in their SAT performance. We also saw students in schools being able to focus on skills to proficient to be able to make sure our students were filling educational gaps they needed to truly reach their full potential. Students are closing foundational skill gaps and are showing up more prepared on test day than ever before. I personally can't wait to see our 2026 results and see the progress that a full year of this partnership is making for our students and their outcomes. We at RIDE, as we go forward, know that none of this work happens without great educators in our schools. There is no success at the state education agency without the success of a teacher in a classroom with students. At the heart of the Rhode Island story are dedicated teachers, counselors, and school leaders. And that's why we're thrilled to have an all-star panel of school and district leaders who are leading the way and getting great outcomes through our Khan partnership. I'm going to turn it back to Sarah to introduce our school leaders, and we look forward to hearing from them.
Yeah, so we're going to start with Ken. Ken, you're the principal at Lincoln High School. One aspect of really successful partnerships where we see increased learning outcomes, and your school certainly did, you nearly doubled the number of students who reached the math benchmark on the SAT suite of assessments, which is an impressive achievement. But one aspect of these really successful partnerships is having a thoughtful implementation plan. Ken, can you talk a little bit about how you developed and structured your implementation plan at Lincoln?
Thank you very much, Sarah. Firstly, I just want to give tremendous thanks to Sarah, to Sal Khan, to the entire Khan Academy team, and for the Rhode Island Department of Ed for really jumping on this initiative and providing the opportunity for high schools to jump on and really engage in a purposeful partnership to improve the overall assessment levels. So it's also Teacher Appreciation Week. I got to give a shout out to my outstanding leadership team, my department chairs, my teachers, because they're the ones who implement this on a daily basis. When we were considering the mechanisms of implementation, we have intervention blocks here at Lincoln High School, and we've viewed that as the natural fit for installing what is a supplemental mechanism. And it's when we started reviewing it right at the onset back in it was December 24 going into January 25, we were like, this is something that's going to provide a meaningful impact for our kids because it's personalized, because it's individualized, because it can meet where students' gaps are and able to, through the AI system and ConMigo, really kind of work students through the process without providing them answers. And that's the key. Going through those course progressions relative to SAT training, it was a phenomenal fit for what it is that we had aspirations to do in the advancement of our own high school. So we took our advisory block and supplemented it, just doing it once a week at the start going into that year, simply because we didn't want to overload the students with a new tool. We wanted to make it purposeful and meaningful, and that Fridays were SAT prep day, and we were going to work on it to get our students prepared for the test. And it just completely was a phenomenal tool that combined with curricular integration, we did implement it in certain English classes and math classes. The combined result was we had the highest combined scores of English and math scores in over 10 years at Lincoln High School. The highest math scores that, as far as my department chair is concerned, ever were reported at Lincoln High School. And that's despite cohort base. Sometimes you get peaks and troughs related to cohorts. It was just that mechanism really combined with the rationale and the reason why, really getting it back to kids, which I know my counterpart's going to talk about a little bit, but that's the fundamental aspect. And looking ahead, it's just refinement of the system for something that works. How do we create structures within the school to revise and kind of revitalize what this initiative and how powerful it can be? We know the impact that 20 hours of this Khan Academy work can substantially increase those overall SAT scores. So the question is, how do we fit that within school environments in order to maximize the achievement without taking away or providing something that can only be done after school? Because we know that part of the high school experience is students participating in activities, students have work, students have a variety of commitments, and we wanted this to be really equitable and for the opportunities for all of our students. So we're examining different facets for that going into next year. We implemented some of that going this year and really focused on student motivation, like providing a incentive where students who achieve certain levels of skills masteries in the course completion associated with the Khan Academy work get access to something like a senior field day that we were going to do for all students, but providing that kind of ticket to get in. We were thinking about that and contemplating it. And then additional curricular integration. That's another mechanism that's a easy, low-hanging fruit to really kind of supplement the work in providing opportunities for students to achieve proficiency with the standards. It's the foundation, it's the time to build, and we're really excited about what the future partnership looks like. So again, thank you to the Rhode Island Department of Ed and Khan Academy for the great work.
Thanks, Ken. Those are amazing numbers to hear. And Donna, Ken mentioned Khan Academy being a tool. And I think something that plagues educators sometimes is initiative fatigue. It's just yet another thing on another thing. And so then nothing ever gets used because teachers are just tired of all of the tools. So Donna, as the principal of Middletown High School, you rank in the top 5 for participation in Khan Academy. So your students are using it. How did you get buy-in from your teachers, your students, your parents that this wasn't just another thing?
Well, I think it's just transparency. I think when you can explain the why, I think that means a lot to students and to teachers. And it's not in addition to. I think when Rhode Island adopted the PSAT and the SAT as our proficiency-based criteria, I think that inherently sent a message that this test means something. For those students who are already college-bound or thinking about college-bound, they equated those two things already. And so for the rest of our students who maybe never thought to take those assessments, when they became part of our school day, it sort of insinuated that college was accessible for all students. So tying in this Khan Academy piece has been, critical. Ken said made a lot of great points. And so for our teachers, I think it removed a lot of barriers and it just made it more accessible for all students so they can work on it independently. If they have the drive, they will thrive. I'm proud of our numbers. I looked at our data. Our students spent over 122,000 minutes on Khan Academy just from November 1st of this year preparing for the PSAT. We expanded the PSAT into our 9th grade because we didn't want the 10th grade to be the first time that a student was taking an assessment that they may have never seen before. And that score was meaning something to them and to our school in our accountability report card. So we drilled down to our 9th graders and said, this is your time just to play. It's a moment in time. Where are you today? And then here's this great tool that if you want to run with it, run. And then for our teachers who inherently want to just help our students all the time anyway, it was just an easy path. In getting past the data, student agreements, RIDE, made that playing field very level for all districts. And rolled out this really comprehensive way in which we could all get there together. And there's nothing worse when you're a student in the class. I'm a first-gen college student. In college, no one was telling me I should go to college. And to look around at my colleagues, my peers at the time, and think, oh, their path was already decided for them by somebody else. I thought, what a horrible message to send to children. And so this provides an opportunity for a student to not only during the school day to work on it within their classrooms, but what I'm working on for me might be different than the student next to me. So our students embedded it. We have a block schedule. It can be a lot of time. It's a lot of time to just hear from a teacher. So we encourage that it become part of the block. And, maybe it's the 10 minutes of warming up or the 10 minutes at the end of the period. Or when students are working through a skill and they're having difficulty, they now have a tool that they can go to themselves, have a little practice, and then come back to it. And so, we use that 9th grade data now to show kids where they are today. And now you have this tool that you can input where you need to practice and where you need to thrive so that as you move forward through high school. And I think the big leverage for students too is, the more we can help you practice and do really well in this test, either in 10th grade or in 11th grade, you can earn these other things like the commissioner's seal and or not have to pay for the SAT and take it on a Saturday. How dreamy, right? So the more we can do together, the more successful for everyone. And if college is not for a student, then that's okay. We just want to make sure they were able to make that choice at the end of their high school career, not because we've created some institutional barriers. So this has just been, a serendipitous another tool that we have just added to the toolbox for our students.
And what I'm hearing is it sounds like there's lots of different strategies that you're using in both of your schools, and there is no one right or wrong way to implement Khan Academy. It fits in lots of different models within a school day. And so we've heard from 2 school leaders so far. Francesca, you're a district leader. You're the director of math at Providence Public Schools. The commissioner mentioned that Central did really well in our Canathlon competition. So you obviously have engaged students. Francesca, I'm curious about what were the key shifts that moved from Khan Academy being a compliance task, something that I have to do because my teacher told me to do it, to something that students were genuinely interested in doing.
Good afternoon. Thank you to the Khan Academy team, particularly to Sarah, who I worked closely with in our partnership with Khan districts last year, and to Sal Khan for providing our students with this opportunity. Also, thank you, Commissioner, Steve, and the rest of the team at RIDE for continuing to support our work in Providence. So prior to this role, I had experience where I led SAT readiness at the high school level as an assistant principal at Central High School for about 2 years. And what I'll focus on to answer your question, Sarah, is how we moved from an isolated SAT prep program to a coherent district-wide system that is aligned to instruction, driven by data, and reinforced through school culture. Before the work began, SAT prep was concentrated in grade 11. It was often disconnected from daily instruction, and it varied widely depending on the classroom or the teacher. As a result, student engagement was inconsistent, implementation lacked coherence, and overall impact was limited. When I transitioned from a school leader to the district role, we made a deliberate shift from SAT prep as an event to it being part of the everyday teaching and learning. Now this work begins in grade 9 and 10 and continues through grade 11. It is aligned to both ELA and math instruction, and it is grounded in standards and our high quality curricular materials, not test prep alone. What made this work and what is replicable for other districts comes down to 4 key shifts. First and the most important key shift we made was instructional alignment. We aligned Khan Academy SAT practice directly to our core curriculum standards, which allow teachers to intentionally embed this SAT practice in ELA and math instruction. We extended this into science and social studies instruction as well. The key shift was that we are not teaching to the test. Instead, the test reflects strong, grade level, standards aligned instruction. The second key shift was that we set consistent expectations across all schools. Students were expected to have a minimum of 30 minutes of practice per week and to have 2 skills at a minimum proficient per week. These goals were simple, measurable, and visible, and it created consistency in student effort and progress across classrooms. One of the biggest drivers of success was putting strong systems in place. At the district level, we established non-negotiables, from students taking the SAT Blue Book practice tests to use of SAT practice during the school day and during vacation weeks or on Saturdays, regular review of data, and clear communication with students and families. We also align leadership professional learning, our district walkthrough tool, and data systems to monitor progress. At the school level, content teams engaged in weekly data cycles focused on engagement and mastery. Teachers then use that data to assign targeted lessons and adjust instruction. This wasn't passive. The data directly informed the teaching. As a result, we saw increases in both practice time and mastery across the district. This key shift was that data became routine, it became actionable, and it became embedded within instruction. Our fourth key core shift was around culture. Schools created leaderboards and recognition systems to celebrate success, incentives and school-wide campaigns and challenges, and opportunities for students to track their own progress. This resulted in students taking ownership of their learning. An example where we saw this come to life was at Central High School. As was mentioned, students at Central High School were talking about their progress, tracking their own data, and asking how they could improve. That's when it moved from compliance to ownership. As a result, across our district, some schools reached over 40% SAT mastery and over 60% in reading and writing mastery, an increase from last school year. Conassalon placed second nationally. It was in SAT performance on a national challenge in January. And then most recently, Providence won the Khan Academy March Mania Challenge for reading and writing across Rhode Island districts, 2nd year in a row. So we saw overall increases in student participation, time on task, and weekly mastery. If there are 3 strategies that districts can take away from our work, it would be align SAT practice to your core curriculum. Don't treat it as separate. Set clear, measurable expectations for students and track them consistently. and build systems where data is reviewed regularly and used to drive instruction. These will help shift the culture to student ownership, and as a result, the outcomes will follow.
Thanks, Francesca. I love that. Don't treat it as separate, because the skills that are being assessed on the SAT suite are those things that our teachers are teaching every day in their classrooms. And so once we can make sure that we're not teaching to the test and get that feeling out of the way, I think that's a huge bonus. So Sal, I'm going to turn it back over to you. What impresses you the most about what you've heard so far, or what are some thoughts about what you've heard about what Rhode Island's doing?
Yeah, first and foremost, thanks for all of y'all. Y'all have been very generous on the Khan Academy side, but we've seen over and over again that Khan Academy is not that useful at a systems level unless you have dedicated folks like yourself really figuring out how to, as all of the things you just talked about, getting buy-in, et cetera. It really is. And we've recently had some efficacy studies. This was outside of the US, but it backed that up. It's not about technology by itself. It's technology paired with really amazing human systems and people to know how to get buy-in. I think my reflection is there's definitely diversity of implementation. I think that's a good thing because you don't want one size fits all. At the same time, there's definitely some consistency here where people aren't being forced to do it, but I think being thoughtfully brought along for the ride so that there's real buy-in. And then once there's buy-in, the teachers and the students really start to see how it's going to be a benefit. And I think this program in particular, we have Khan Academy obviously at many, many grade levels, but I think especially when students see like, okay, this is directly related to my college readiness. This is directly opening up opportunities for me. I think it's just that much easier to get some of that buy-in. The last one is it's really exciting. This is a state level thing. I know Rhode Island isn't the largest state, but it is. It gives me a lot of hope that this is something that we can do with many other school districts and hopefully states and beyond. So yeah, every time I have conversations like this, I get very, very excited.
Ken, I'm going to come back to you. What have you found to be the most impactful element of using Khan Academy at Lincoln?
Thank you, Sarah. So it's definitely the usage of AI embedded platforms within the Khan Academy resources. Khanmigo is absolutely phenomenal. It's AI with guardrails, and that's key. It utilizes Socratic method to drive student to that level of understanding and proficiency. It doesn't spoon feed them answers, but it provides that progression to get them to where they need to be. Another aspect is writing coach. So we've had two of our grade 9 teachers utilize writing coach with some diligence, and that has produced some phenomenal results. And again, it's teaching students to write without force feeding them exactly what it is that's the answer. They need to have a deliberate progression utilizing question and answer. And what AI does through these platforms is it provides, if I have a class of 24 kids, it provides 24 teacher assistants within that class to supplement the teacher who's coaching it. So from an efficiency standpoint, it's absolutely phenomenal, and it's such a great support for our students.
So as I'm hearing you talk, I'm hearing like your students are different. They need different things. Everybody's school is different. Everybody's district's different. Classrooms are different. Donna, how has this experience met the needs of your diverse learners at school?
In a lot of different ways. So, the PSAT, SAT was, the hook to use it, but we do see students using it in other regards and in subject areas. And I think, it's a very user-friendly platform. Our teachers are embedding it, anywhere from physics to, their ELA class, in math and all those typical places. But, I downloaded our data from our school, and there is a direct correlation to the number of minutes. And we know this, right? But kids need to see it and really be transparent. And what I've, looking at my top 10 roster students we're going to recognize later this month at a school assembly is, there are some students that have some real academic challenges and some significant needs, but there's some perseverance that they have and due diligence that they have spent. And I would have never known if I didn't download that report, the level of which students are working on this beyond the classroom and really becoming, agents of their own academic, journey. And that's exactly what we want, right? We want students to be independent learners and to be able to seek out what they need. And so we want to applaud that. At the end of the day, I hope you did great on the PSAT. I want you to be a great human that knows how to, traverse the world and be an independent consumer and all of those great things. So, our motto at school is grit and grace. And to me, that just shows so much grit that, we have these students that independently, and, I have got AP students. I've got students of all different parts of our building, and to see every student be able to thrive just by dedicating some time. What I'd like to do is, backwards design and look at the teachers that, who are using it more than others. Definitely had some early adapters. But, I think the coalition of the willing, and, once something starts to gain some momentum, no one wants to be left out of the party, right? So I think it's just all great stuff to be, worth the celebration.
Yeah. So Francesca, we've heard a lot about the successes that the schools and the districts have had so far, and I'm sure you have some other successes to talk about, but let's talk about those, but also maybe some challenges that you've had with your implementation and how you've overcome those.
Thank you, Sarah. So our biggest success, I would say, has been building a coherent district-wide system, going from schools independently, doing their own approach to using the SAT practice, to creating a district-wide system. And what we've seen was increased student engagement, consistency, stronger alignment between instruction and SAT readiness, gains that are measurable in mastery and participation, and schools creating their own incentive systems to celebrate the high student achievement towards mastery. But most importantly, this is a shift in student mindset. Students now see this work as part of their growth towards college career and readiness, not just test prep, get ready to take the SATs, but it's aligned to the standards, to the curriculum that they're learning in ELA and math. And also we've connected it throughout science and social studies. So with that being said, we've also had challenges. And one of our biggest challenges was, and is still is ensuring consistency across schools. So early on, implementation varied widely. Some schools treated this just as something in addition to what was already happening, and it lived only in math and ELA classrooms for 11th grade. We also had to really build the capacity around effective use of data, a true standards alignment where the skills from the SAT domains fit into our courses. And then also thinking about how do we create time within the school day, which is also still a challenge for us. Expanding implementation also beyond math and ELA to all grade levels and across all core content areas. So we addressed these challenges at the district level by establishing clear non-negotiables for schools, providing the aligned ongoing professional learning for our leaders, our coaches, our interventionists throughout the year, creating consistent data review systems throughout each cycle within common planning time at schools when teachers came together to meet, and with our leaders, creating opportunities for school leaders to share strategies with each other around what was working and areas for improvement throughout the year, and then aligning this work across core content areas to support all students. So the biggest lesson we learned is that success doesn't come from this tool alone. It really comes from consistency, clarity, and strong systems that support implementation at every level.
Yeah, I love that systems kind of viewpoint, is it how it fits within your whole system, and again, not just another thing. So Steve, I'm going to come back over to you. What advice do you have for a state or a district leader looking to scale their SAT prep plans to create these systems? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, first off, I would encourage folks to, as you approach it, is to give folks the flexibility and space to be able to design the solution that best fits their school. Each school has a different schedule, different structure, whether it be intervention block or advisory or as homework. All of these approaches have bared fruit for schools, and I think it's been successful. The other piece is, I think, by approaching this at the state level, it allowed us to cut through a lot of the bureaucracy that would really slow things down. Again, getting 40-something DSAs done because of the work of our legal team in partnership with the con team made this a lot easier to do at the school and the district level. And so I think having those types of strategies really helped. And then the other piece that I think we've done a really nice job of is bring folks together to be able to celebrate what's working and to give folks the space to be able to learn from each other. Right, each school is approaching this individually, but we had time together last summer as a part of the community of practice to support the graduation requirement implementation. And folks came together and heard about the impactful strategies folks were using, which I think has really accelerated the use of Khan Academy. And then the final piece, and again, kudos to you all on this, is I think the competitions you all do, I think really challenge our educators to bring out their best each day. And I think it's really made it fun to be able to push joy and to push that part of our work where folks are competing on a really exciting, positive goal.
That's great. So, Commissioner, we've talked about initiative fatigue, not just another thing. The districts in your state are clearly doing some amazing work. And to think about how to keep this momentum going, where do you see the partnership with Khan Academy going in the future?
Well, I think that we're going to continue to grow the partnership. I think that that's invaluable for us. And, embedding it in all the work that we do, because having the information at a district level lets us have very deep conversations with our districts, and also how we can be supported, right? How do we support them and the needs that they have? But really push the agenda on what does the instruction look like? What are the things that are embedded in Conmigo? Because I have to tell you, everyone has been talking about how they work so well together and how we have these guardrails for using AI and getting immediate responses and coaching and support for our students, but how it dovetails with what's happening in the classroom. It's not one additional thing. It's not, when you talk about that fatigue, we're not seeing that. What we're seeing is joy and excitement. Their school improvement teams are working and using the data and figuring out what other things they can do and what do they look at the data? How do they talk to the parents about how much they need? And we know that the more that they are using Khan Academy, the faster they're moving forward and the more engagement we see in the classroom and the deeper the knowledge and their confidence. I cannot say enough about the confidence of the students, understanding that this is a vehicle for them to have multiple opportunities to access to higher education, that we are very committed to supporting our students in getting to that end of the road. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I can only see it expanding. And all our districts are doing it very differently. And we are very excited because we have the data and we're seeing some amazing, amazing results.
Yeah. So I think the theme that we're hearing today is intentionality. And we can help you develop this intentionality through our district partnerships that we've heard impacts learners in a really, really solid way. The partnerships give you access to rostering support, to data, to our powerful mastery learning system, to our AI support. We're even adding interim assessments to our portfolio of services. So anecdotally, I think you've seen the value of a partnership today. And then as Sal mentioned, we have the efficacy data that shows that it works. We'll find that when students are a part of a partnership, it can be 8 to 14 times more impactful for student learning. Our focus today was also on SAT prep, but Donna also mentioned they administer the SAT suite of assessments, which is SAT School Day, PSAT NMSQT or PSAT 10, and PSAT 8-9. If you're already administering the suite or planning to administer the suite of assessments, you're demonstrating that you're investing in building that culture of growth in your school. And you can maximize the investment by then building the structures around it, those systems that Francesca talked about, to support your students as they build these enduring skills that are assessed through a reduced cost partnership. If you're looking to learn more, you can contact our district partnerships team by going to our website. And I'm going to pass it back to the commissioner for any final thoughts, and then Sal can send us onward. So Commissioner, any final thoughts before we go?
Yes, just an immense amount of gratitude to Sal and the Khan Academy team. I will say to my colleagues throughout the nation, you know, you want to make sure that you really embed this work. I cannot speak more highly about the investments and the partnership. It has been smooth and we have seen the impact. And Sal started off by saying that you have been the most studied, and we're reaping the benefits of that. So we are incredibly grateful because this is opening doors to our students and ensuring that they have access to college. So thank you for that. And anyone that's watching, it is worth investing the time and figuring out how to make that part of everyday learning in our schools. Thank you.
Sal, any final thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, well, thanks again to everyone here, Sarah, and the entire everyone in Rhode Island. I'll just say two quick things. I think in education generally, but in ed tech specifically, it's very easy for people to go to different extremes. You always kind of have the trend of the year, so to speak, and they come and go. Hey, this new bell and whistle is going to solve all your problems, and that's probably not quite realistic. And then the other extreme, and unfortunately, we see a lot more of this, and this isn't just in ed tech. You see a lot of cynicism. You say, "Well, I've heard people tried X, Y, and Z, and it just now we're back to where we started, or it didn't go anywhere." And the truth is actually neither. The truth is that there are tools. We think, the things that we are developing are one of those tools. But it's not just going to be something you can drop in and, all of a sudden all the magic happens. Every now and then you're lucky and it happens a little bit like that. But there is work here. So no one should pretend that there's not all of y'all have done incredible amounts of work to drive the alignment and the intentionality as we just spoke. But what you see is when you do it and you do it consistently, and it's the priority for everyone from, either the commissioner or a superintendent at a district, all the way down, and there's buy-in all the way to the teacher and student level, that you really can chip away at it. And y'all cited a lot of data. We're seeing it at other school districts in the United States. Newark is one of them. There's many others I could cite where it's not just efficacy studies anymore. We're seeing at scale moving of SAT scores, at scale moving of concordance scores, at scale moving of state test scores. And that narrative really hasn't gotten out there yet. There's still a lot of cynicism there. A lot of people don't think that you can actually make this type of progress, but it is happening. But once again, it's not just overnight. It takes real effort. But if people are willing to make it a priority, it can happen. The other thing I'll say, and I think I can speak for all the educators here, and I remind this to the Khan Academy team, as a not-for-profit, and a lot of people don't understand what a not-for-profit is. They're like, aren't all tech companies not profitable? I was like, no, that's not what a not-for-profit means. Not-for-profit means no one owns Khan Academy, and our bottom line is our mission. It's not to become wealthier or anything like that. When I have my board meetings, my board pushes me on how do we make sure we're having the impact, and it's real impact, and it's not just and I tell the Khan Academy team, we don't exist for the sake of self-preservation. We don't exist to create some type of profit, which we don't because we're mostly philanthropically funded. We exist because we believe there's parts of the ecosystem, especially in education, that aren't going to be served well by the market. And that's the place for the nonprofit sector. And also, I think in a world of technology and artificial intelligence, there's so much opportunity, but there's also so much fear. And hopefully people can recognize that, we're in it. When a new state or any, Sarah or I don't become a penny richer, there's no stock, et cetera. In fact, we usually have to go raise more philanthropic dollars. But that's why we're in it. That's why our philanthropists are in it. And that's, and hearing conversations like this make it all worth it. And we're really excited to continue this partnership.
Well, thanks everybody for joining today, and onward.